Hi, you're watching Behind the Gavel. We have the pleasure every month to sit down with our board president, Liz Rogan. So great to have you here again. Thank you for your time.
Great to be here.
I have exciting news.
Tell me.
This is the 100th taping of Behind the Gavel. So congratulations to us. We should be in syndication by now, I think. We have had 5 board presidents since we began taping.
Wow.
It started with one day we were talking to former board president Jim Edelson. And we said, you know, we'd love to do a monthly show with you, and he was willing, and that created a legacy. Then we had, of course, Joe Manco, Matt Comiskey, Bruce Reed, and now yourself. It's so wonderful that you carve out this time every month, and we have a lot to talk about.
Well, I'm excited to be here. It's a nice honor, and it's 100.
Show 100.
Wow.
So this is going to be a really good show. You better stay tuned in. Don't go to that refrigerator yet. So first, let's talk Ludington, because let's face it, clearly there have been some disappointing delays along the way.
Yeah, but it's going to be so worth it because, you know, we will be opening it soon, but it's not just that we're opening it soon. We're going to have an amazing new structure. It's going to be renovated, it's going to be expanded. You can hang out on the porch and have your magazine reading, perusing, and it's going to have more space for the collections, and it's going to be well worth the wait. So I'm really looking forward to that, not just cutting the ribbon, but being able to use it all the time, which I know that I will be along with my family.
Of course, we're talking about, Ludington Library, which you've seen the construction and the progress on Lancaster Avenue. There were some weather delays, we had some issues with one of the contractors, but again, we are approaching that finish line. Not just the space additions, but also very critical ADA accessibility improvements.
It's going to be much more user-friendly, it's going to be much more valuable to everybody who does use it. It's going to, you know, probably encourage a lot more people to use it. So it's a huge investment for the community, and it's very worth it for the, you know, all the generations to come after us. So it's great.
And it's part of the phased improvement program for our library system.
That's right.
Of course, there's a capital campaign that continues to be underway where donations are sought to help offset the costs of the needed improvements.
Yeah, and I guess probably it would be good not for everybody to have my approach to supporting the campaign, which is like to pay my late fines all the time. You know, donations to everybody's library would be really, you know, appreciated and helpful and
I am
valued.
so glad you said that, because every time I have a late fee, I actually don't feel bad about paying it because I know it's going to a great cause, the library system. In fact, my mother just became a library member after 76 years. Oh. And she's like, wow, I get all those books for free? And I said, Mom, DVDs and computer access and all that too?
If everybody who used to spend their money at Borders and all those other stores gave even a quarter of what they used to spend in the stores to their donations to the libraries, the collection would just explode. The expense of their collecting their contribution to the capital campaign would be taken care of probably, you know, in a few weeks from this community who is our big readers.
And in these tough economic times, we have seen library usage skyrocket. Interestingly, too, Ludington Light, which has been that temporary outpost trailer used to serve that community while Ludington's been closed, is still the second busiest library in the Lower Merion library system, and it's just a trailer. So it's wonderful. Our second largest circulation library is Balakin, which of course is closed now.
Which is a good thing, because we'll have a new and improved system there as well. And hopefully, you know, with having all the experiences we had with Ludington, having a project manager on the Bala site will make that project go, you know, smoothly and quickly, and we'll have another ribbon cutting sooner rather than later.
So bottom line is there is temporary pain during construction. We experienced it when we did our addition here at the Township Building, but we're all enjoying the benefits because it's all about serving our citizens ultimately.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So speaking of using finances wisely, which, you know, investing in our infrastructure and our buildings and our services, that is a key component of what we do as local government.
Yeah, I think that's our obligation as a local government, is to make sure that we have, you know, a community that people want to live in. And you only have a community that you want to live in when the services and the basic things that you don't want to have to think about the basic things, like driving on the roads and when it rains, that you'd be able to not have to go through puddles, and all of that stuff is really important. So not only just the infrastructure, but how you manage it is really important. So the finances is a huge part of it, and thinking about how you're going to take care of them is a really big part, which we've been doing with the workshops that we've been having, the finance committee's workshops.
Yes.
So figuring out how we're going to use, at the end of the year, we had the $6.9 million adjustment that we had to make to the general funds reserve.
The happiest of adjustments, the most fortunate of circumstances, it was great news. Yeah. We received news after the issuance of the 2012 proposed budget of an additional approximately $6.9 million in unbudgeted income, in part due to business tax revenue and
the adjustments that you make at the end of the year.
Sure.
This year, the adjustments were really to, I think everybody in this community's favor, and a happy problem to have to deal with.
So $6.9 million, and everybody can line up and sort of say, well, I have a great idea for how to use that money or how to dispense of that money. Yeah. And your thoughtful idea was, let's create a process for discussing this.
I think there was many people that contributed to that, and Doug has an obligation to report back to the board, township manager, to in terms of our reserve fund, we have a policy, 15 to 18% of our operating expenses averaged over 3 years. So we have way more than that now because of this happy problem that we have to deal with. And so the manager's obliged to come back to the board with a plan for how we can distribute that money. We've been, and we will continue talking about that. There's various different approaches to how you could use the money. One approach that we did not follow through on at the end of last year was to do a refund to the community. It could still happen, but it's not, right now, something that we move forward with. So we're going to continue to look at, maybe we'll pay down debt, maybe we'll be able to forestall any real estate increases or adjustments.
That's a common theme that I've been hearing. First of all, reminding our citizens that there was no township real estate tax increase in 2012.
That's right.
That was sort of laid down the gauntlet beginning of 2011 and said, let's make that our goal. Goal achieved. Zero real estate tax increase for the township.
That's right.
So then now this other happy, fortunate circumstance of the additional funds could be used even when drawing down the fund balance to that level between 15 and 18% to forestall an increase perhaps in 2013.
That's right, and there's all sorts of discussions that would be a wonderful thing to happen, and it's one of the things we're going to talk about, but whether we prioritize that over looking at debt service or looking at investments in our infrastructure, that's what we'll be discussing. And hopefully anybody in the community who has an opinion about that will be speaking to their commissioners or the staff and sharing their ideas. And sooner is better than later, because it's helpful to know what people are thinking.
That's a really important point, because commissioners are represented. It's a representative government.
That's right.
And so it's so important. It's not just every day is budget season, really, in Lower Merion Township. We are always looking, and different issues emerge. Yeah. Sometimes we have bad weather, and that affects the budget, and it's not necessarily budget season, but it affects what we've projected. We've been fortunate thus far in 2012 to have fairly mild weather, and I'm sort of knocking on the
it's not
without
March
a gavel,
yet.
you know what I mean? You're right, it's not March yet. But so it's a constant process, and it's so important for citizens to reach out to their commissioners.
Yeah, and I'm sure that the commissioners reach out to their constituents, but it's a mutual responsibility.
Got it. One of the things we always like to provide an update on is Ardmore Transit Center, Ardmore Revitalization. You have been a part of the team that's been focusing on Ardmore's revitalization for quite some time now, prior to being board president even.
Yeah, we've been working with Ardmore's revitalization for a long time, and things are actually they ebb and flow. So now we're at that, really exciting high point. We have the work we're doing with Drown-Off Properties. It looks like it's going to keep going forward, but now PennDOT has also indicated that they're very interested in the project and making sure, evaluating to see whether or not things should keep moving forward on the more transit related improvements. So it's a really exciting time. We have an application in for federal money that would be able to support those transit improvements. It's a perfect fit for the grant standards that you have to meet. We'll find out what happens, but it's really an exciting, thought to have the transit improvements and a mixed-use residential and retail improvement on the Cricket side. What an investment in the community, and it's really an exciting time.
Yeah, and we're not just saying that. It really, really is an exciting time. We look forward to hearing exactly how the funding gaps are going to be met, but there is more optimism than ever before with regard to this project. We could talk at length about Dranoff's commitment to Ardmore, and his team was chosen in part because of their ability to aggressively seek grant funding.
Right, and they were instrumental in working with us and the two transit partners to get the state money, which we have $15.5 million of state money, but now we'll also be going forward to try and get federal money. And the relationships between the township and Dranoff and SEPTA and Amtrak have only improved. I mean, they've gotten even better lately, and so those funding gaps adjust depending upon who we're working, who is now actually focused on the project. And it seems like we're going to be able to, actually have all that we could hope for. We'll find out, though.
We'll find out, and we promise that you will hear about it here on LMTV, and certainly you will be the first to know as soon as we know what's the fullness of what's going on with Ardmore. We just know great things are happening. We want to talk a little bit more about Ardmore when we return, as well as what's happening with the comprehensive plan update. Stay with us. Behind the Gavel, we'll be right back. Welcome back to Behind the Gavel. We're here with Board President Liz Rogan. Leading into the break, we were talking about Ardmore Transit Center, Ardmore revitalization, and we can't really talk about that topic without mentioning the Ad Hoc Ardmore Committee.
There isn't a project unless you have a community, and we've been really, really lucky to have a really great working relationship. The Ad Hoc Committee is residential representatives and commercial representatives and the elected officials and the appointed officials. It's a remarkable group. They've worked really hard. They've been continually supportive of the big concept that was a mixed-use development right by the train station, to the consideration of maybe having a two-site project that would be smaller than what was originally thought of. Now they're been discussing, and we're considering well, what would happen if we can't do the transit improvements, and we have to focus on the other goals that we have for Ardmore, and they've been supportive of that. And
not
without
just supportive,
them,
I mean, they've literally stood up and clapped. And you admire the flexibility of them to go through the highs and lows
and still be committed.
Yeah, they're on board, and we're excited about being able to work with such. We want their dreams to come true for Ardmore.
This is like the ultimate of public service, right? Is to actually be able to accomplish something like this, and to do it with a whole team effort. I mean, that's just it couldn't be something any better than that.
So we're actually taping this show prior to a March 5th, I believe it is, Ad Hoc Ardmore Committee meeting, and there'll be more to say even after that meeting. But we applaud the volunteerism and the community process and everybody who's pulled together, because you know what, together everyone can achieve more.
Yeah, and I don't think that we could have done it without them.
Yeah.
So
another thing we cannot do is complete this comp plan update without the citizen involvement. And brilliant idea to say, look, we've got to accelerate this. It needs to happen. The best way to do it is to cut it up into pieces that happen concurrently. And we need committees to take the lead on all of these different pieces. So what we now have are
committees. Lots
staff
of
committees.
We have not even just staff. It's being supported by staff, but it is a initiative that the Planning Commission, that's an appointed residential community board, residents from our community, they're going to chair these 5 different groups, and the goal was to make sure that we expanded the participation in the community, so we get a big diversity of people and interests and experiences and backgrounds. get them from different areas of the township.
That is really important. I recall, in fact, some of your, you really focused on, well, let's make sure we have somebody from, Gladwin. Let's make sure we have someone from Wynwood. You wanted to have all of that sort of spaced out on each of these committees.
Well, and not only just physical locations, but different, residential representatives, but we also have school district representatives, and we have representatives from other educational institutions and other, our hospitals. All, the community is more, it's primarily residential, and that's who votes, but the reason that people live here, I think, are because of the full gamut of everything that makes Lower Merion what it is, and that's many different things. So
our educational system, we have representatives of Lower Merion School District. Even a student, I think, is on one of the committees.
Yeah.
We have land use, housing, circulation, community facilities, water and energy, resource conservation. Of course, everybody wanted to be on the land use committee.
Well, because people understand what that is. So it's understanding the connections between all of them. I think that it's sometimes hard to be clear about, because I think that even though land use is an easy, understandable thing, housing relates directly to that, and circulation systems. I mean, people talk about traffic all the time. It's a huge issue in this township, and we don't always want to be driving our cars. So circulation's more than just the roads. It's well, yeah, it'd be nice to have a handle on getting the traffic and congestion reduced, but it's also really important to make sure that people can get around in some other ways, and it isn't just by walking. It, bike and mass transit, and pulling all that together is hugely important. And our institutions are a huge part, and so land use isn't just how you use the land, but the institutional and community facilities group is going to be responsible, looking at one of the biggest challenges we have is in a residential community where we have institutions. How do those two work together, and what do we want to have in terms of facilities for our community? So each of the different pieces are really important and work together. So there is a committee assigned for each of them, established for each one. We had 54 or 53 people, and I think the list is up on our website, right?
Yes.
But while we do have a committee established, all of those meetings are open, and they're all going to be publicly, they'll be listed on the website, and I hope that people who aren't on the committees, people will still come, and you're all invited. Please, come to the meetings and participate, because you don't have to be a member of the committee, and the more interaction and the more participation we have, the better the plan will be.
Right, and you can go to housing committee one day and land use the next day if you want.
Spend your life here just like you do.
It's wonderful to see the community involvement and what it can lead to. And again, the goal is a comp plan updated by end of year.
Within a year, we're starting now. We're starting the real work now, and now it's the spring. Great. So I would say spring next year.
Thank you, because sometimes I get a little too excited and I go, All right, so good. One thing I can be excited about is the Parks and Recreation Plan update is preparing to be released. In fact, as we talked, they're getting ready to post it on our website. And that was a product of a lot of community involvement.
Oh, it was a huge product, and the feedback that we got on that was really inspirational. I mean, this community we all know how wonderful it is, but the whole process, it began in 2010, I think, and we had a consultant that did, we had a community-wide citizen survey. The results were remarkable.
Want to share some of them? I loved some of the highlights.
Well, 90% of the people in this community think that our Parks and Recreation system is like excellent. Good to excellent. And that's compared to 70, a third, 75, 72, 70% of that type of a rating occurring anywhere else.
National average for use of municipal parks is around the low 70%, and in Lower Merion, 90% of respondents say they regularly use our parks. Yeah. So these are amenities that people care about, and they had lots of thoughtful input about it.
They did. And I think that the thing that, some of the feedback that we got was very interesting in terms of what the, needs are and what the things that they like best were. And I think that, our communities are changing, so we need, not just one of the real needs, you know, we need ball fields. I mean, it's a developed community, and we have our limited number of fields, and there's so many people into sports, so, you know, active recreational fields. But there's also a need for family programming, and especially as our community gets older, you know, that range of programming shouldn't just be for young families, but it should be for, you know, for seniors in our community who need more than, you know, our senior centers. We have a couple of those, but, you know, so that type of programming requirement became clear. It was a really valuable part of the public participation process, but we also had a lot of community meetings and interest group meetings. So the feedback we got was from a variety of different sources. I think that the recommendations that are going to be in the study will be really helpful for all of us to have, and that's part of the comprehensive plan.
I was just going to say, it's just yet another component. Right. One of the initial components was the open space plan update. That's right. And now we're enjoying a Kenwood Heritage Trail, which was envisioned back when that update, you know, so it's not just documents that are being worked on.
That's
they get
why
dusty
I
and sit on
planning,
a shelf.
You know, it's what you know, it's what my life is.
Well, that's why we like to talk to you about planning too, because you could tell how excited you get about it, and it's a passion of yours.
It is, and
a very important aspect to local government. Of course, there are many other aspects as well. One is public safety. Yeah. We just in the recent month,
right. We're doing that pilot project for our 911 system.
Yeah.
So that's a pilot, but it didn't change everything, because the 911 calls still, they were always the same for the
911 calls that you made by your cell phone always went to the county dispatch. Now this new pilot program is specific to the 10-digit emergency numbers. And what it's basically doing is the calls are going to the county. The level of service or responsiveness that people are going to receive, you won't even notice the difference. But
when they answer the phone, you'll hear something different, because they'll say county dispatch, and they'll give their number, and, you know, anybody who calls that number should, you know, they could start off their call saying, you know, I'm in Lower Merion and this is my issue, because it's an emergency call, and it's not a 911 number that they dialed. Right. So if anybody calls those numbers and they're kind of surprised because they get county dispatch, don't get nervous. Just, you know, tell them what the issue is, and that'll dispatch out, and they get the same training, they have the same background.
They're accredited as well. Right. And of course the administrative calls at the 649-1000 number are still accepted by the Township's Communications Center. So that's happening with that. We also are coming into one of the favorite times of year for our citizens. They love to go to our spring and fall cleanup weekends.
That's true. That's true. And although it's sometimes advertised as free, I wouldn't say it's free, because we contribute to it in our taxes. So it is a part of the benefit of living in this community that you have when you pay your real estate taxes, is that you can take advantage of the spring cleanup weekends, which I know are in the end of April and the beginning of May.
Right. Put it on your calendar, Saturday, April 21st and Sunday, April 22nd, as well as May 5th and May 6th, Saturday and Sunday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Don Cannon chuckles when he says that sometimes people will show up and sit in line for an hour to dump for free, dispose of, I'll say it nicely, dispose of for free what any day of the week they could go.
They can. I mean, they will have to pay a very little bit of money.
It's like 80 cents or something like that.
It's very little money, and you can also bring it out to your curbs.
4 cents a pound. Right. President Rogan.
I'd say bargain rates. You know, you live in this community, you get your value for your dollar, and I think that, you know, people not only can go to the refuse and recycling center, but they can put it out the curb, call for pickup, and that's still a really reasonable price, and it doesn't take you to get into your car and, you know, put it in your car, take it to the dump, and come back, or the recycling center, whatever is the appropriate.
We have talked about so many different issues. Thank you so much for your time. In everything we're talking about, there's always township employees and township staff related to it. The guys that work those spring cleanup weekends, or our dispatch, our telecommunicators here at the township, our police department, our planning staff, and we are celebrating staff on March 20th when we have our annual Employee Recognition Awards ceremony. You can watch it live right here on LMTV. It starts at 1 p.m. on March 20th, and we'll be replaying it. I know that you always come to speak about staff as well.
who we owe a lot of gratitude to.
And it's a partnership because we're grateful for our citizens. So we love serving you. And we thank you for your time on this 100th episode of Behind the Gavel. And thank you for tuning into this edition. We will see you again next month with our board president, Liz Rogan. Have a great day.